Good evening and thank you for joining us. Thunder Bay Police have sectioned off a portion of Ambrose Street on the city's north side due to what appears to be a serious incident. Officers were originally called to reports of a disturbance just before 4:30 this morning. Since then, the Major Crimes Unit has been brought into the investigation. No other details are being provided by City Police at this time. A large portion of the street is cordoned off and numerous officers could be seen today knocking on doors and talking to residents in the surrounding area. Police are still holding the scene while information is being processed. We hope to have more details about the incident on tomorrow's NewsHour. A man accused of killing a woman inside a North Side home nearly 4 years ago has pleaded not guilty to the charges. The trial against 29-year-old Peter Kiash began today at the Thunder Bay Courthouse. He's accused of second-degree murder, as well as 2 counts of uttering death threats and 1 count of forcible confinement. It stems from an incident in October of 2018 at an apartment on Dufferin Street. 32-year-old Irene Barkman was found in a pool of blood with injuries to her face and neck. She was rushed to hospital and died 2 days later. Today, the court heard that 4 people, including Kiash and Barkman, were drinking alcohol inside the home. Police found a broken knife blade on the floor and the handle on a table with what looked like blood stains on both. Kiash was arrested the next day when he returned to the home to get some clothing. The trial continues tomorrow. More details can be found on tvnewswatch.com. Thunder Bay City Council is set to make a decision on the newly tweaked ice allocation policy for local arenas. Administration made changes to the original policy after backlash from user groups, mainly minor hockey. With the new plan, youth hockey players get their ice allocation position bumped up from 8th to 6th on the priority list at the Fort William Gardens and from 5th to 4th at satellite arenas. Sports and Community Development Supervisor Paul Burke believes the revised policy will better suit user groups in the city.
In an ideal world, we'd be able to give everyone, the best time between 5 and 8 p.m. on a weekday. So that's not something we're able to do, obviously. So this policy will help us make those decisions as far as who gets what ice and the amount that they get.
Council will also look at a work-from-home program for certain employees. Less than 10% of city workers would be eligible for the program. A section of High Street South between Lisgar and Queen Streets is now closed for major construction. The $1.6 million project began today and is expected to take 10 weeks. The work includes new water mains, sidewalks, and fresh pavement. There will also be a new pedestrian crossover set up at the corner of Inchiquin Street. Affected homes have been set up with temporary water service while the work is carried out. Street access is limited to local traffic only. Drivers are asked to exercise caution and obey all signage. The premiers of Ontario and the Maritime provinces say they've had productive conversations about how to address the healthcare crisis that's being felt right across Canada. They agree that things need to change and say throwing more money at a broken system won't solve the staffing shortages, ER closures, and extreme wait times for patients.
And I guess first I just want to
This is a Team Canada approach that we need to take, as all the premiers here have discussed. When someone walks into an emergency room, be it in Halifax or Moncton, anywhere across this country, all the way out to Victoria and Vancouver and everything in between, they don't want to be sitting there for 10 to 12 hours. The backlog surgeries, they don't want to be waiting forever for a backlog surgery. We're working collaboratively together. We're going to come up with a strong solution that works for everyone in Canada. But again, we can't do it alone. We need the support of the federal government.
Some of the solutions they discussed involve making it easier for foreign-trained healthcare workers to be accredited to practice in Canada. They also floated the idea of privatizing some medical practices and making it easier to bring care directly to seniors in their own homes. But they all agree the changes need to happen alongside the federal government and need to be led by healthcare professionals. Meanwhile, Ontario's health minister was questioned today by the interim NDP leader at Queen's Park about the province's plan that was announced last week to address the healthcare crisis.
Why is the government choosing to send surgeons, nurses, and funding to private for-profit clinics while operating rooms in our hospitals sit idle?
I will remind the member opposite and all parliamentarians here that we have actually added 400 physicians, residents, to support the workforce in Northern and rural Ontario.
Order.
We're launching a new provincial emergency department peer-to-peer program to provide additional on-demand, real-time support and coaching.
ER wait times at smaller hospitals here in the Northwest could soon see some improvement as officials line up to implement a new nurse practitioner program. The pilot project is already making a difference in Geraldton. Lee Noonan has more.
The program was piloted at the Geraldton District Hospital, where nurse practitioner Leah Galusha was initially tapped to cover some weekend shifts, relieving the local ER physician. As an NP, Galusha can care for the majority of patients, freeing doctors up to care for patients with the most acute needs or giving them time to rest.
NPs can do minor sutures, we can do splinting, we can do casting, we can order diagnostics and interpret, we can send referrals to specialists, anybody with earache, sore throats, minor infections.
With hospitals throughout the province struggling to keep ERs open in the face of a staffing shortage, Geraldton has actually seen a reduction in ER wait times and increasing patient satisfaction. They've now made Galusha's role permanent and have hired a second ER nurse practitioner. Other hospitals in the region are also seeing the benefits. Galusha has traveled to work in Red Lake and Atikokan, helping to keep the ERs open there as well.
It can be done, and it is happening, and it is helping. And because all the healthcare providers collaborate together, we can do great things. We're still short. There's still short physicians. That hasn't changed it, but it has helped alleviate the stress.
NPs regularly provide emergency care in more remote parts of the country, but the practice hasn't been commonplace here. However, 6 other hospitals in the region, including Thunder Bay, now have job postings open for full-time NPs or physician's assistants. Filling those positions may be easier said than done, with the healthcare staffing shortage affecting nurses as well. But Galusha finds the ER work very rewarding, and she believes other NPs could also be drawn to this kind of work.
Let's be honest, not everyone wants to be an ER nurse, but there are definitely NPs out there. If they were interested and were mentored, they could definitely do it.
Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Kiiwetinoong MPP Saul Mamakwai is criticizing the Ford government for not having a process to enable Indigenous protected and conserved areas. Those are lands and waters where Indigenous governments take the lead role to protect and conserve the ecosystem.
Indigenous protected and conserved areas are a necessary tool to protect the lands and the biodiversity of the North. But Ontario law does not recognize IPCAs as a protected area.
I reflect again upon work that we're doing with Elliott Lake, that member's colleague. We're doing important work there to ensure a protection and oversight of a provincial park, and we're always willing to sit down with Indigenous leaders. Speaker, when it comes to protecting water and working together, it is this government that for the first time ever launched the First Nations Advisory Circle through a mandate that I issued the Ontario Clean Water Agency.
North Spirit Lake First Nation is in mourning following the passing of its longtime chief. Caroline Kiesik passed away this morning at the Thunder Bay Regional Hospital following a lengthy illness. Kiesik served as chief of North Spirit Lake since 2013. The remote community has a population of 260 members. A transport caught fire early this morning, leaving the trailer and cargo destroyed and impacting traffic near the intersection of Highway 1117 and the Thunder Bay Expressway. The fire broke out shortly after 4:30. Thunder Bay Fire Rescue sent multiple units along with a tanker truck because there are no fire hydrants along the highway. Crews also used foam to extinguish the blaze. Fortunately, there were no injuries. The cause of the fire was deemed to be mechanical. It started near the brakes and spread to the inside of the trailer, destroying the food being carried inside. One lane of the highway heading east was blocked off while tow trucks removed the wreckage. In an effort to increase accessibility at a pair of local beaches, the city has invested in 3 new beach wheelchairs, specifically designed to help more people enjoy the summer by the water. The chairs can be found at Boulevard Lake and Sandy Beach. They're equipped with large tires to roll through the sand. 2 of the 3 units are larger Moby chairs and that allow people with physical disabilities to cool off in the lake with the help of large floatable armrests. City Parks planner Werner Schwar says the city is focused on making the beaches more accessible. There are also plans to install a special mat at Boulevard Lake next summer.
And then we'll be using a beach mat, which is kind of a roll-out rubber plasticky thing that smooths out the sand so that the beach chair has an easier time of getting into the water, and that people then with mobility challenges can have an easier time getting from the parking lot right into the water, whether that be by themselves or with a caregiver.
Beachgoers who need a chair just have to ask a lifeguard at either location. The family favorite Murillo Fair has now wrapped up. Much like the recent CLE in Thunder Bay, it was a huge success with possible record-breaking numbers. The crowds were so large that on Saturday afternoon, parking became a big problem. Mitchell Ringos reports.
We can make it if we try, just the 2 of us.
Thousands showed up for the fair this weekend for a little taste of Murillo, as there was plenty to do, including live music, the Canuck amusement rides, vendors, a carnival, and the addition of some favorites like the Tractor Rodeo and the Horse Ranch Rodeo. Fair President Sue Ellen Bleckenhorst says she was expecting high numbers to turn out, but over the weekend was shocked with the potential record-breaking visitors that were seen, with 8,000 on Saturday alone, and similar amounts, if not more, seen on Sunday.
We knew we would get more because we kind of kept an eye on the CLE, but we didn't expect the volume that we've got now because people have to drive out here. There's no shuttle, there's no city bus that they can take to get here. But we just weren't expecting the numbers.
And even though the fair was packed, everyone seemed to have a great time, especially with the nice weather, as we talked to some locals at the fair to see why they came out and just how much fun they had.
It's pretty good. Some good food, some good rides. Overall, a pretty good time.
It's a huge turnout. It looks awesome. It's such a good time. The kids love it, so can't go wrong, yeah.
Now, the huge turnout wasn't all easy going, as on Saturday, due to the lack of volunteers, the parking lots quickly filled up, leading some locals to try and find their own parking spots, which Bleckenhorst says led to congestion with those coming and leaving the fair.
We didn't have anyone down there to say, this is where you're going to park, so they kind of parked where they wanted to. And they blocked people in and just not being considerate of other people.
Now, more volunteers did come out on Sunday, which fixed the parking issue, and Bleckenhorst says for anyone who happened to miss the fair this year, there will be horse events happening every weekend at the Murillo Fairgrounds until the end of September. Mitchell Ringos, TVT News.